Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Oh my God. I could hear. Never mind. Hello. I was not ready. I'm going to tell my producer, Morgan. I was looking. Morgan always sweetly texts me and says, "Good morning." And I have trouble with repetition. So instead of just saying good morning, good morning, good morning, I was scrolling through emojis, trying to find something to put up there beside, I don't know. Hello, good morning, Morgan, and good morning to the rest of you guys. And I just couldn't, God, all those idiotic emojis. I can't even tell what those facial expressions are supposed to mean half the time. Hello. And then the only reason I knew the show was on, I did not have my headset on. I heard vague, like somebody talking. And I thought, what's that? What's that? Is my phone? I mean, I am so not ready for living in the world that exists currently and will continue to morph into something that is alien to me. God. Anyway, I forgot the greatest update, and I forgot to tell you yesterday. This won't mean anything to many of you, but some of you who happen to be listening to the show in which I talked about it will be glad to know that I've been reunited with my ratty orange sweater, which had, as media tell us, had gone missing. And I for the life, I ripped my house apart trying to find it, all the time. You know when you've lost something and you start looking for it and you're looking in places, there's no way. I mean, you're opening drawers. There's no way the thing is in there. No way. And you know it, but you're like beside yourself. You've reached some kind of, hysteric state where your brain is not really guiding whatever your actions are. You're just like flailing around, which it sort of describes where I was with the sweat. I mean, where could a sweater go? So anyway, turns out where it went. I had called my mother, and while talking to her, I said that I can't find my favorite sweater. And she says, it'll turn up. I said, no, it won't. I've looked absolutely everywhere. And that's when it occurred to me. And I think some of you had said the same. Maybe it was still in Green Bay. But I swear I remembered wearing it after. But my memory, anyway. So I all of a sudden realized that I should ask my mother, Mom, rip the house apart in Green Bay and see if it's there. And lo and behold, there it was, hanging on a hook upstairs. What happens when you don't properly put your clothing away? I thought everything was in the closet when I packed. Whatever. Anyway, I got it back. It was shipped off to me. And the minute it got here, I put it on. I pretty much had it on since. So, okay, there's that. There's that. March 23rd, that's where we are. And very warm out there today. Wet out there today. And more wet coming our way. God, California, the weather, I can't even, there comes a point at which you just sort of tune out. I can't watch My God, those poor people. God. I don't know. Okay. So, what are we going to talk about? Little odds and ends first, if you don't mind. I was speaking yesterday about the fact that I had watched that World Baseball Championship game that Japan won over the United States, and that I was so blown away by this player that I have to admit, I every once in a while been reading about that he, was an extraordinary pitcher, an extraordinary hitter. He was like nobody had ever seen his like. People started saying, Babe Ruth, and then people started saying, Babe Ruth? Babe Ruth couldn't hold a candle with this guy. No, this guy is, well, I think one of his teammates, Japanese teammate, called him a unicorn. He shouldn't exist. He's not, there is nobody else that is anywhere near him. I mean, this guy, somebody else said what? He was like Michael Jordan in Space Jam. He is Wayne Gretzky times 4. This Ohtani is unbelievable. And I'm so thrilled that I actually witnessed this extraordinary game that has sports writers just going berserk. And you can't blame them you can't blame them. Greatest of all time. And he's just starting. I mean, they shouldn't even bother having an MVP now in baseball in the U.S. for, it's him. It is he, I believe, is more proper. But that sounds stilted, doesn't it? It is he. Man. And as I mentioned, I have the hots for him, so whatever. What can we do? It's a bitch when you're an old lady and you have the hots for a 20-year-old guy. But it happens. It happens. I've told, I'm sure, I worry about telling the same stories over and over, but after 40 years babbling, odds are I've told many stories over and over. But I do remember the first time it hit me. How old I was. And then I wasn't. I mean, I would have been maybe 38, 39. I mean, young stuff. But I was at St. Vincent College in Latrobe, standing on the field, watching the Steelers get ready for the season. I was doing a lot of sports feature reporting for Channel 4 here. And damn, I'm looking at, I'm standing there and these young, gorgeous specimens of manhood are right there. I'm standing behind them. They're standing next to me. I'm looking at them. I'm watching their amazing athleticism. And I'm thinking, God, I am sexually objectifying them. I am. But it was the first time I had this thought where I can't remember who I was ogling, but he couldn't have been more than 21. 21. He was a rookie. And I thought, oh my God, I'm probably as old as his mother. that's a hard thing to come to terms. And now I'm as old as his great grandmother. Yeah. Jeez. Remember the first time you were like went to see a doctor or something, and you're sitting there waiting to meet him for the first time? It was invariably a him at that point. You're sitting there in the examining room, and the doctor comes in, and he makes Doogie Howser look like a member of AARP. This like fresh, doesn't look like he shaves. I mean, he's so young, and you're thinking, oh my God, you've grown up always, like looking up to authority figures who are always were older than you, and the doctor's older than you, your teacher's older than you, and then you reach that point at which that stops, and pretty soon everybody's younger, and that can be unsettling, to say the least. Oh God. Okay. So anyway, my latest obsession is Otani. God. Oof. There's a headline in a local newspaper whose name I won't mention. I'm sorry that I even know it. That is on the front page that I think bespeaks the arrogance of UPMC. I mean, the arrogance of UPMC is, well, it's sort of like at the same level of Otani in baseball. I mean, there's just give it up. You can't even reach those heights of arrogance. They feel like they own the place. They own the town. It's a company town. And there is a headline. Let me find it. I'm sorry. Took a screenshot. There is a headline that you would have thought that, another business, or excuse me, charity, another charity, knowing that there could be this kind of headline, would have said, maybe we shouldn't do this because think of the bad press. Well, UPMC doesn't give a damn. Here's the headline. Front page. UPMC declines integrity proposal. Now, you think, what is it? But UPMC declines integrity. That's what you see. That's what sticks in your head. And you think, you arrogant SOBs. And it turns out that this proposal they declined was a proposal made by the U.S. government, because UPMC had been found by the U.S. government to have committed fraud. Oh, not quite. They never admit it. It's one of those things where a settlement is made and UPMC admits no wrongdoing, but shells out millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of dollars in fines. Yes, but admits to no wrongdoing of defrauding American taxpayers and the U.S. government. Medicare fraud, ladies and gentlemen. And when this kind of thing happens, and it has happened to other hospitals, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services comes in and they say to the hospital, we'd like you to sign this corporate integrity agreement. Standard practice for hospitals accused of Medicare fraud. Almost, nobody says, no, I won't sign it. UPMC says, no, I won't sign it. And so, because they won't sign it, now the U.S. government has red flagged UPMC and also one of their big doctors, the chair of their cardiothoracic surgery, has put them in a high-risk list, sort of like being on the terrorist no-fly list. A high-risk list marked for extra government scrutiny because they pose, these are quotes, because they pose a significant risk to federal health care programs and beneficiaries. UPMC knew this would be the result, and they said, yeah, so what? UPMC, the definition of corporate arrogance. They're vile. And I'm not talking about the doctors and the nurses and all the hardworking people there. They know the jerks they work for are vile. The organization sucks. Do I have a caller? Hello?
Hello.
Hello.
Before I talk about being old, I want to mention that I belong to AHN, Allegheny Health Network, so whatever.
Well, what do you think I do? What do you think I do? I do too. I put my money where my mouth is. Not that I haven't seen doctors affiliated with, I'll seek out the best care, but I'll be damned. Yeah.
In fact, I just saw my PCP on Monday, for my yearly checkup. And she was born in 1987. It's funny because I was, talking to her and she was saying, and I, the conversation, I said, look, I know I talk a lot, but the conversation went to her. Because I was asking, I said, now, who takes care of you? Because I said, you got to excuse me. I'm an uncle. I'm Uncle Clarence. No matter, I don't care if you're my doctor or not. Right? How are you doing? So I even asked her. I said, that's asked her about her, the relationships. I said, you're single, right? She goes, yeah. She said, all the guys I meet are stupid. I went, that's because you're a doctor. I mean, I said, finding some guy whose ego is going to be able to deal with you being a doctor is going to be difficult. We're like going back and forth, and and I said, I'm so sorry. I finally got out of there. But I used to, because I chose her. I chose her because she was younger, because she was a woman, as a doctor, because of, what is that called? Implicit bias. I figured if I'm going to, limit implicit bias in my doctor, I'm going for a young woman.
Well, yeah, and ideally a young black woman, I suppose.
Yeah,
a young black gay woman, a young black trans woman with a disability of some sort. Yeah, right.
Exactly. That's trying to minimize. But she, the way I determined, when I realized that I was an old dude, which I always, was when I said, when teachers and cops call you Mr. Yeah. And I said, not because, out of they're respecting you, because you knew them when they were little kids. They always called you Mr. Clarence. Now that it's adults with responsibilities. Hey, Mr. Clarence, how you doing? Is that you?
And I think of you, I have to tell you, I think of you as young. That's
because you met me. I think I was in my late 20s or early 30s, but I'm 60.
Oh, wow. You're 60?
Yeah, well, really? I'll be 60 this year. Yeah, I was born in 60.
So you're in your 50s. Clarence.
I'm 59.
Oh.
Yeah, I got less than a half a year to be 60. No,
I could be your mother.
If you were,
I could be your mother.
If you were a young mother.
Yeah, if I were a young mother.
Yeah.
Well, there are. You know what? I met a woman the other day who had her first child at 14.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait. Well, I know a woman with three two children before she graduated high school.
Yeah.
They're doing well too.
Wow.
But
yeah, this one's doing well too. Unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think you and the Blues are about the same age, right? I don't know how old you are.
I think he's an old fart like me.
Yeah,
I think I'm a little older.
Yeah, by like months maybe. What I think? What are you? 70? What? You could say it. So yeah, okay, yeah. I think you're a year older than I didn't know. I thought you were like 72 or 73. Yeah,
oh,
so you're like
I'm 75 going on 16. There are parts of me that aren't exactly, matured yet, but 75.
Yeah, see, that's what I told my little sister years ago when she said I was turning 50. She says she had a student's grandfather who was 50 picking her up. She said, I met this man, reminds me of you. I said, yeah. So I said, was one of my students' grandfather. I said, well, I'm old enough to be a grandfather. She goes, well, I never think of you that old. I said, well, it doesn't matter. And I said, well, how old do you feel? She says, I feel 25. She was 40. And I said, well, what everybody does is they imagine what it's going to be like when they reach a certain age, and they were just wrong. You're just
exactly.
wrong. Well, mommy, I'm like, yeah. Well, I said we saw mommy as mommy when we were little kids. I said, but mommy was probably going out to bars and dancing and all that. We just never saw it when she was our age.
But I don't think I was telling somebody this the other day. I think most kids, and that includes even grown-up kids, like all of us, it takes a long time to see your parents as people.
Yeah.
I mean, and some people never get there.
Yeah, my mother died young.
The ones that are, like still like, furious, angry, blaming, they never see them, your mom and your dad, as just flawed human beings.
Exactly. I was talking to one of because my youngest sister is the only sister that is younger than my mother was, and she's 51. Is younger than my mother was when she died. The rest of us are older. And they're all going, I never thought, it's like, yeah, I said we're way older than, but I always thought of us an old lady. I said, that's why I say I'm old. I said, base my age on when, what a 10-year-old thinks. Not what another 60-year-old thinks. That's the basis of what a 10-year-old thinks. I'm an old dude.
Yeah. You have an old soul. You always have.
Yeah. See, I'm sorry. I am so sorry. I told this to my doctor the Monday. I talk too much, but I think I probably told you this story. When I was turning 50, I put on Facebook that I'm finally officially an old man, and everybody was my age. We're not old. We're not old. We're not old. And this dude who I met when I was 18, his name was Larry. We met him in art school. He says, I was old. He was old when I met him. he met me when I was 18.
There you go. I always get so annoyed when I'll say to somebody, well, I'm old. And they say, I'm 75. And they say, oh, you're not. And they actually, and I said, well, what the fuck what defines old? For God's sake. If 75 ain't friggin' old, then what the hell do you think old is?
I said to my doctor, I said, well, I'm an old dude. She says, well, you're not old. I said, look, I don't look at it as a disparaging thing. I said, look, you're my doctor. And I said, I'm 60. Am I going to live to be 120? She goes, probably not. And I said, I'm beyond middle age.
That's right. You're on the downside. That's right. Yeah, exactly.
So there we go.
Well, thank you. Thank you, you old fart. I really appreciate it.
It was a gas.
Yeah.
That's an old fart joke if you missed it.
Yes, it is. I got it. And I refuse to even... Yeah. Okay, you're out of here.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Goodbye. Oh, dear. Roger writes, you said you're attracted To a 28-year-old, that's a bitch. Me being attracted to one would be viewed as creepy. Well, that's true. But I can assure you that a 28-year-old man, knowing that a 75-year-old woman had the hots for him, would think it was creepy too. Really. I mean, if you keep it to yourself, it's okay. As Jimmy Carter said, that he lusted in his heart. If you keep it in your heart and don't act on it, you're fine. And Roger goes on to say, a friend of mine said it's weird when his current wife calls his first wife ma'am. Okay, we have another caller. Hello.
Morning. Oops, you still there?
No,
Morning,
I'm here.
Lynn.
I'm here.
Okay.
Hi.
It just made a bunch of weird beeps. Well, that's pretty good for Jimmy Carter lust in his heart, but it's like it sucks. But you know, sometimes you're just stuck with situations you can't control.
That's right.
I was a little late calling because you know, you were talking about UPMC, and I can look at their stinking name up on the side of the building from the shop I work in, and it always makes me think, you pay more cash.
You know, I hate the fact that when I'm driving almost anywhere, there they are. There that damn UPMC thing is in your line of vision. I mean, it's just perfect for the largest employer in town. I think it's a company town. They own us.
Yes, they do. They I went to them years ago. I don't know if anybody remembers this, but you used to be able to go to either AGH or UPMC. That's ancient history, but I went to a doctor for a procedure, and it took forever. And then when it was done, they had a bunch of steps, ridiculous. And I made friends with somebody after it was all over, and they were in the insurance industry, and I showed them the stuff, and they busted out laughing. The person told me that it was over the course of 3 fiscal years. They could have done it in 6 months, but they stretched it out to 14 months. They ran my deductible all the way up in each time period. And she said that way they get 100% of that deductible. They run it over, then they only get, 30% of the money they can get out of you. She's like, they wrung you. They just wrung all that money out of you.
Listen, I just have such a healthy mistrust of almost any time I'm engaged with the American healthcare system, because it's based on profit. It's not based on patient care. And that is true pretty much no matter where you're going. There are people working within this corrupted system that believe in patient care, and our interactions with them are what saves it for us. But the system is just corrupted. It's broken.
I'm getting a little nervous as I get older. I mean, I've been around asbestos in my youth where I worked a lot of asbestos, and I didn't know anything about it. I was crawling around in the stuff like it was nothing. And I had lead poisoning a couple of times through my work, and so I'm a little bit nervous about getting sick later. And I don't even know how you navigate with these people. I'm trying to get them to fix some varicose vein in my leg. This has been going on since about a year now, and they just called. I'm supposed to go tomorrow for the thing, and they just called me a couple minutes ago and said we're putting it off for another week. I'm like, you MFers, what are you doing to me? It's just like I feel like a ping pong ball or something. But,
I will quote Bob Dylan. You're only a pawn in their game. That's it. Listen, good luck. Good
Thanks.
luck. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Talk to you later.
Thank you. Bye. Bye. Yeah, good luck to Good luck to us all. Josh writes, you and Clarence talking about the first time you realized something about the reality of life. No, kind of. I remember as a kid, I saw a teacher at the grocery store. It blew my mind. That's great. Yeah. You mean teachers eat? You mean teachers shop? You mean teacher? It's so true. That is how I saw a teacher at the grocery store and it blew my mind. Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Oh, God. My. Okay. Where am I going? Where am I going? Where have I been? What the hell's happening? Oh, yeah. You know what? I am going to leave that till the end. I'm always saying, why do I end up with such depressing stuff at the end of the show? And I'm making an effort today to leave something interesting, at least, or not depressing. Which means, all that is to say, which means now I'm going to quickly do depressing stuff. Okay. Oh, Roger has called, so maybe we'll, put this in abeyance for a bit. Hello.
Good morning.
Hi.
Hi. I remember as a kid, grown-ups were just peripheral. Oh, that's the teacher, that's my mom and dad, that's my friend's mom and dad's, and that's the clerk behind the counter. But to have any relationship was well, why? I wouldn't play, and I had my friends my age. I watched TV, and I had to go to school. But all the grown-ups, when you look at today, like my wife and I, we have 1 million kids live on our street, and we're interacting with them. We're doing this. We're playing with them. They come over to see the dog and the cat, and it's different now than it used to be, because I don't remember having those type of
I think because when we grew, well, you're younger than me too. Maybe it was still happening then with you, but when I grew up, grown-ups, yes, and children lived very separate lives, and but yeah, you're right. They didn't mix much, and there's something to be said for that, by the way. On the part of the kids, there's a lot more independence if children steer clear of adults. A lot more independence, a little, curiosity, making mistakes, going your own. It's how you sort of learn about the world. If you have a parent or an adult always there, sort of, controlling the situation, because adults invariably do, you're not going to have the freedom that I think was had by children before parents and adults. I mean, even when I became a mom and I'd introduce my son to, an adult friend, and I would say, this is Mrs. or this is Mr. So-and-so. And the adult would always say, oh, no, call me Jim. Call me. They would say to my kid, no, call me by my first name. Don't call me by that honorific that you do for an adult. And I would get pissed because I wanted that separation for him and that respect that you would get. I didn't want adults and kids, and I might be wrong about that. I don't know. Because I also, as a child, had wonderful relationships with older people. I loved hanging out with old people. I loved listening to them. So I don't know. But this sort of taking away of the difference between children's world and adult world, which really has been erased. And it's been erased in ways, too. You're going to get me on a rant Where when I was a kid, Halloween was for kids, right?
That's what I was about to say.
For kids. Okay. And now, God, adults have taken just, give them an inch, they'll take a mile. They're just taking over what was kid territory. I hate it.
I understand what you're saying, but I was like that friend you talked about. I wanted people to call me by my first name. Don't call me Mr.
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
I think I might have done the same thing. But when a parent is trying, if a parent is saying this is Mr., that is a parent trying to teach something to a child, or and the person should respect that parent and not say that.
And getting older and seeing what's going on, and it's a bigger picture. I mean, because like I said, like our parents were not really involved in what we were doing all the time. Rarely, if anything, they were getting in our way from having fun or preventing us from killing ourselves, probably. But like parent-teacher night. My dad never went. My mom might go. And now you look at the situation what's going on in schools. They got like TV cameras, so a parent can bitch when they think their kid's being taught something they don't think is right, and it's like it's just the exact opposite, and it's not serving us well, and it's pushing people out of the teaching industry because teaching's hard enough as it is, and now you got these. It's the parents that are the problem now, who just stay out of my way and let me do my job.
It's always the case. It's the so-called grown-ups throwing their weight around. It's absolutely right.
And that was an anomaly 30, 40, 50 years ago, and now it's becoming more the norm.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, thank you. Appreciate it. Bye. Okay, bye. Speaking of teachers, this is one of the, this strike in LA. It's all the support staff, right? It's not the actual teachers striking. I'm a little confused, but I think because it's the Service Employees Union. But there was a piece that said that the parents, usually when teachers strike or when the schools close down because of a strike, parents get pissed off. It disrupts the parent's life. It disrupts their child's education. All of that. Parents get pissed off. What's interesting about this strike, and it's a strike in a district that has almost 500,000 students in it. What's different is, by and large, the parents are supporting the strikers. The parents are supporting the strikers because who goes to LA public schools? You tell me. There's the same question I could ask of almost anyone living in an urban setting. Who goes? Not rich people's kids. The people who live in LA, who are those people we've been talking a lot about this week, the working poor in America, paying exorbitant prices for housing, barely able to make ends meet. They're the same people who are out on strike. The strikers are people who live in the community. They are the parents. And none of them are being paid enough to live. Here's a case in point. A big concern this week with the schools being closed down is the reality that millions, that tens of thousands of these kids that would be in school are going to be hungry. Because we're so fucked up in this country that our public schools now have become social service agencies in which hungry children who live in homes exorbitant rents, with parents working 2, 3, and 4 jobs and still unable to pay the bills and feed them. Children, a lot of children, and that's true in any public school system in this country, get 2 meals a day at school. And if they're not in school, well, the district in Los Angeles has enough students in poverty that it gives free breakfast and free lunch for all of the students, regardless of income. And those children and their parents rely on that. And so the school district has set up sites this week where parents can drop off their kids. They can pick up 3 days worth of breakfasts and lunches. So even though the school district is unable to educate their child this week, they can at least feed them. This is America. Why isn't this a more urgent reality? They are striking for a living wage so they can feed their families and not end up in the growing crowd of homeless people in this country. God. Okay. I have a call. Hello.
On the phone.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Hey, isn't it amazing that we have kids that don't have enough to eat and people can't make ends meet? But we can find a way to give medals for the arts to Bruce Springsteen and some of the other. Let's see. You have these people that are making all kind of money, and then they get tax breaks, and they pat them on the back more. But hey, kids don't have enough to eat. Parents can't make it. That's okay. Only in America that happens.
Well, you know what? I have to tell you, I had the same reaction that you had when I saw that Biden gave out these medals to, all these celebrities. This is something that's been done forever. And you're thinking, why? Why do we celebrate celebrity and entertainment mostly, as opposed to why not give a medal, to the struggling mother who worked 4 jobs and managed to raise 3 kids and actually get them into college? That's the person who deserves a fucking medal from the president.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm sick of it too. Just sick of it.
Yeah, it's we're so ass backwards. It's unreal.
It is. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Bye. God. Oh. You see what Uganda did? I'm just saying. Okay, this is the gay news part of the show. The Ugandan, parliament or whatever they are, has passed a law that can mean that the death penalty can be applied to people engaged in homosexual acts. Life sentence, oh, don't worry. You'll maybe get lucky, and you'll only get a life sentence if you engaged in gay sex. That's like the minimum. Life sentence. And for a juvenile who is convicted of engaging in a homosexual act, 3 years in prison. And then they go to rehabilitation. Uganda. The anti-gay stuff going on in Africa is mind-boggling. Or not, because we see it here in this country. So, but in Africa, you've got Uganda, Kenya, Ghana. These are all, supposedly more, wealthier, somewhat more, stable kinds of African countries. And they have, extraordinary anti-gay laws on the book. And here's the thing. Uganda is an ally of the United States. We give them about $1 billion a year in aid. Well, now, here's where, statecraft becomes really difficult. So let's say we say to them, we're taking that $1 billion and forget about it, buddy. You ain't getting that with these kinds of laws. Well, then you know who moves in? The Chinese. So in order to have and to retain a measure, a foothold of influence, we have to sell our souls, I suppose. That would be the way Blinken would look at it, and Biden and all the others. Blinken made said that's not good what you've done. By the way, the law passed almost unanimously. Now, Uganda is overwhelmingly a Christian nation. About 80% Christian, 20% Muslim. And I got to say, here's an indication of what religion does that is so evil. Evil! And a lot of what's going on in Africa has been aided by evangelical Christians from the United States. Who, if they had their way, we would have such laws on the books here. And now that we return to the United States, DeSantis has now, he's in the process of, that don't say gay law that he imposed, where teachers are not allowed to teach anything about sexuality or gender from, I guess, kindergarten to 4th grade. That was then. This is now. That's now K through 12. K through 12. Incredible. So to my gay friends, wow. As a woman who's had a right once granted in my lifetime just pulled away, the right to have control of my own body, I just want to say to my gay friends, unless you get very active politically, it is a real danger that rights you assume are there for you will go away as well, will be taken away. If you allow the Republicans to continue to accumulate power. On the happy side, the app or website Grindr, which is isn't that a gay dating site? Grindr has said if Florida keeps this up, I don't know what they mean by that because, they should just let it go right now. They are going to reveal every Republican office holder and party official who uses the Grindr app. God. So, there you have it. Isn't that something, though? Isn't it something? The world we're in? Isn't it something? Fentanyl. I just want, and then I'll stop with the scary stuff. Fentanyl is just killing people left, right, and center. And why can't I find this thing I want to tell you? I don't need it. Screw it. I'll just. Fentanyl. We know where it's coming from. That's what's crossing our southern border. That is a true danger. It's killing people. Not the poor, desperate humans trying to get across the border. No, it's the smugglers, most of whom, by the way, are Americans, bringing the drugs into this country. And the thing about fentanyl is once you start in on it, the odds of it killing you are unbelievably high. Unbelievably high. This is one drug. They used to say that about marijuana and LSD, all the drugs. Oh, it'll kill you. You'll get addicted. Fentanyl is a killer, flat out killer, and incredibly addictive. It is not a naturally occurring substance like coca or marijuana. It is manufactured. Now, the stuff that it's made out of is imported from the ingredients, mostly from China and India. And those ingredients come into Mexican ports where the cartels then hook it up into fentanyl. And then it's run across the border. Killing Americans. I'm an obit reader. Oh my God, I'm so sick of seeing people in their 20s dead, 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 dead. And those are fentanyl overdoses. More Americans between the ages of 18 and 49 die of fentanyl overdose than any other cause of death. Any. Fentanyl. Not cancer, not accidents, not guns, fentanyl. So, here's the other thing. These cartels, we saw those poor people that got kidnapped going for some, stupid surgery in Mexico. That was undoubtedly a drug cartel. And they get their firepower. They're armed to the teeth because they got one of the biggest businesses in the world going. And where do they get the guns? That's America's contribution. So you have guns and weapons of mass destruction crossing the border into Mexico. And then you have the guys with the guns manufacturing the fentanyl and sending it back across the border to kill hundreds of thousands of Americans. I'm not kidding. That many. Right. Again, this is something. Why isn't Biden and the Mexican president, how is this not something that we can get a handle on? People are dying. I know a woman who lost her sister, her brother-in-law. It's one of those things now where, whether you know it or not, the odds are you do know somebody who has died of this, even though it's sometimes, kept under wraps. And we do nothing. Incredible. Okay, I got two quick things here. I was watching that old person's show on PBS, Antiques Roadshow. It's for antique people to watch, other people with antiques find out that they're, valuable and stuff. And there was a guy who came in with this unbelievable, it looked like a severed head. And it turns out this severed head, it was amazing. It had human hair on top. It was absolutely looked like a man. Absolutely looked at me. And then there was a human hand. Absolutely dead on. Wonderful. Guess who had made it? Willie Sutton, the bank robber, the notorious, wondrous bank robber. Who went at, it wasn't the famous quote of him when they said, why do you rob banks? And he says, well, duh, that's where the money is. I might have that wrong, but I think that's sort of it. Willie Sutton, who was in jail a lot and escaped a lot. He was this amazing escape artist. And it turns out Willie Sutton, in one of his escape attempts, and this one didn't work, had created a mask of himself. It looks like anyone who's seen a picture of Willie Sutton and you look at the thing this guy had, Willie Sutton had made it in jail. I can't even begin to imagine how he did it. So it turns out he's an incredible artist. He did like a self-sculpture and then did his hand so that he could put that in his bed and the hand over, the sheet. And it'd look like he's there when in fact he's on his way, over the wall. That was the plan. But I was blown away. Willie Sutton. I got to know more about this guy. What a astonishing character. And then one last thing, and I'm going to leave you. The Supreme Court of the United States, for whom I have not a lot of respect, as you know, heard a case yesterday. I don't know that it got a lot of attention. Why they took time with this is beyond belief. It was a case about a dog toy. It's a dog chew toy. It's a trademark case. The dog toy, the toy looks like a bottle of Jack Daniel's whiskey. You know, it's made in that form. It's got the same kind of lettering on it. So this is a case that Jack Daniel's actually brought suit against a dog toy manufacturer because they were making fun of their brand. So I'm looking at a picture of the dog toy next to a Jack Daniel's bottle. And the toy, instead of saying Jack Daniel's, says Bad Spaniels with a dog. And everything on this thing is like a poop joke, but it's all done looking like a Jack Daniel's bottle. Can you imagine being so absurdly thin-skinned if you're a Jack Daniel's that you would bring suit against these people? It's funny. They were actually arguing. And the Supreme Court justices spent time yesterday talking about whether this Bad Spaniels was a purely commercial product or was an expressive one under the First Amendment, and whether consumers would be justifiably confused. Yeah, right. I know that if I saw this, I mean, what the And at one point, somebody said, what do you mean a consumer would be confused? I think Alito said that. And the attorney for Jack Daniels actually said, well, you went to law school. You're very smart. You're analytical. What the fuck? And Alito responded, I had a dog. I know something about dogs. Anyway, the same company does this all the time. They apparently have another toy that's called Mountain Drool. It's funny. And at one point, Kagan said she didn't get the joke. And I'm thinking, oh, God, help us. Help us, please. So anyway, there's that. I'm done. Time's up. I'm sorry I won't be here. But by the time I get back on Monday, do you think Trump will be arrested? Maybe not. Whatever. Stuff's coming down. You can just feel it in the air. You guys have a good interim, and I will see you again on Monday. Bye-bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.